Previously, in X-Men, the Beyonder, an ethereal cosmic being of limitless potential and clearly a plot device personified from Secret Wars, has arrived on Earth to draw out a lengthy crossover. Recognizing the existential threat, this sounds familiar. He poses to all life. Rachel Summers, now called Phoenix, is still determined to use her immense powers, her immense abilities to destroy the Beyonder. It feels like I read this last week. What are we talking about here? I am Jason Lapidus.
I am Chris Sanagan.
And we are Group of 7 Comics. Welcome to episode 132 of our ongoing Tuesday night live stream read-through of the X-Men comics that became classic as we read Uncanny X-Men 203 by writer Chris Claremont. Penciler John Romita Jr., guest inker Al Williamson, cover dated of March 1986. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well. You know, originally, when I was trying to figure out which issue we were doing today, I did look at the cover, this cover, and mistakenly thought it was the one that we had done previously. So there you go. There's your, confusion over exactly what's going on here.
A little bit of fodder here. So What we're dealing with is maybe a conflict of interest. Maybe what we're dealing with, hypothetically, is that Jim Shooter, the writer of Secret Wars, Marvel Secret Wars in 1984, and the editor-in-chief, has a royalty program going for creators that do work that sell really well, and Secret Wars issues generally sold more than 250,000 copies a month with each issue. So that's pretty phenomenal. They were like the top 10 issues of 1984. Each one was in the top 10 of comics from comic stores. So it was a huge, high-selling commodity for Marvel. No surprise that they would do a second version. This time, instead of having it isolated, the plan is to scatter it throughout. You have your ongoing issues, but then have crossover issues throughout the Marvel offerings every month. So you get these tie-ins constantly. So it gives everything a sales bump. And of course, if let's say you don't have much of a story to tell, which I'm positing, you have to, as we say, pull the taffy. You have to draw it out. So last issue, Rachel's determined to go destroy the Beyonder, and she has a confrontation. And it ended with her choosing, the X-Men and their lives over the destruction of the Beyonder. Because the Beyonder, as you remember, he creates a scenario where he's going to give her, he's like, you want to kill me? Okay, here's power to kill me, but your friends are in danger. So you're going to have to make a choice. And it didn't really go anywhere. She chose her friends, but now she's back for blood again. And it feels like this maybe could have been wrapped up a lot faster, or who knows? Like, it feels like a mandate from editorial to continue to have these interactions with the Beyonder, even though they might not have a big impact on our favorite mutants in the Marvel universe. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I'm curious, actually, just on a tangent a bit here, because you mentioned that, tie-ins, right? And tie-ins is something that we see all the time now. All the time. Tie-ins between, when DC and Marvel do, tie-ins to so many things.
Right.
I don't believe this is the first, or is it? The first, because the first Secret Wars takes place, all, just to your point, in a sequential numeric story that's all, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Didn't have tie-ins. Is this one of the first prototype kind of tie-in as a sales device that we've seen, spread across the various titles?
I think you make a good point. I don't know exactly if this is the first, so to speak, but it's the first one that comes to my mind of being like a company-wide crossover.
Right.
There were these like intro moments where the characters arrive in Secret Wars, where it like interrupts their ongoing, like, oh, we have to go to Manhattan. There's this ring, this structure in the middle of Central Park, and each of the characters in their own issues end up going to Central Park. but not like the full story was happening in those issues as well as in the ongoing series. So
Mhm.
it might be the first of that. And I wish I had a more concrete answer, but luckily we have friends, ex-friends, so to speak, like Chuck and Massimo and Michael and many others who might join us throughout the night who might be able to provide insight as to if they can think of an earlier company-wide crossover before Secret Wars 2.
Mhm.
Nothing's coming to my brain at the moment, but that it feels like it might have been this. But my real issue with it is just that it's not like it's an ambitious editorial and publishing endeavor.
Mm.
Yes, but it's not an ambitious story. And as we've talked about over and over when it comes to movies and our taste in things, when you have an omnipotent character, when you have Q, for instance, from Star Trek, they, with a snap of the finger, can undo any of the things that they've done. Like no choices are permanent. There are therefore no stakes. There is something really cool about those Thanos type cosmic moments where you get where it feels like the fate of the universe, where like these massive concepts like time and space and reality are personified or imbued within an infinity gauntlet, so to speak. Uh, as long as things come at a cost, like if we're going to just make the quick comparison, because I brought it up about Endgame, for them to go back and get the stones, like for them to live those 5 years, that blip, like it cost them something. All of it cost something. They all lost part of either the 5 years, with their friends and the way they had to live. So like there was a permanent cost to all of it, even though they brought back people. Um, I'm glad it wasn't just like, oh, everyone wakes up the next day and nothing happened. But it feels like any writer can write their way out of this corner just by that quick snap of the fingers. Michael says the only thing that comes to mind is Crisis on Infinite Earths, also contained within a series. And then were there crossover things that happened in different issues? I don't remember. I think I do have a Crisis trade in
Mm.
my collection, but I find maybe it was too dense a read. But yeah, and that's not far off in terms of time period, by the way. It's mid 80s.
Mhm.
And will come up again in this conversation. Chris, you know about the pre-crisis and post-crisis moments in time in terms of comic book continuity? Do you know about that?
Uh,
No? Okay.
I mean, I think maybe no. Yeah, you know what? Tell me.
Essentially, Crisis is this publishing an editorial effort to streamline their continuity after 45 to 50 years of DC. So you've
Right.
got this, golden age Batman, you've got this silver age Batman. They're different characters, and then you get in this Bronze Age version, this Neil Adams and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Like they're just different versions of the characters, and the older versions kind of aged out. They were telling those stories for sometimes almost 50 years. So they decided that they also had acquired different publishing companies like
Okay.
Charlton and Wiz. Was it called? Not Wiz. What was the one that Shazam was in? Captain Marvel, Fawcett. So they had acquired these different companies over time too. So they had these characters in the Charlton universe, which go on, by the way, as analogs to be the Watchmen. Like so Blue Beetle and Question and Peacemaker, etc. They're all these Charlton characters. So they've got all these additional kind of continuities. They decided just to streamline it all, kill off who they need to kill off, age out their old versions, and just go move forward with one new continuity.
Gotcha.
It's like an ambitious endeavor, but they restarted their timeline. So like Superman's origin happens now post-crisis.
Mm.
He's found. So the new version of Superman does not carry any of the baggage. None of the old stories carry over to like basically 1986 moving forward. Batman's like starting from year one, which is what they did. They didn't restart their books. They just, a Batman 401 is Batman year one, I believe. Mm-hmm. And they did start Man of Steel, but they didn't restart Action Comics,
Right.
or Superman. Well, maybe Anyway, maybe they did restart Superman. But moving on. The idea is just it was a streamline. So it will come up again in a minute.
Okay.
But we need to talk about something else before we can get into this issue. Remember how in issue 201 Cyclops left?
Yes.
He's
Storm
like,
controls.
right.
He's leader now. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to remove this guy. I think I'm going to remove this guy if I can figure this out. There we go. And then we're going to put this one in a solo layout. It's not a very good solo layout, is it? I blame you.
You should. Feels right.
To blame you?
Yeah.
All right. We've got Fantastic Four issue 286 here.
Okay.
It is... Let's see these credits. The glare will disappear in a moment because once we open it, and you can see, I don't know if... Oh, yeah, let's do that. If I move the glare.
There you go.
Recognize her outfit at all?
No.
Okay, that's cool. But now that it's on newsprint, most of the glare is gone. Okay. Right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. I won't spend too much time going through this issue, but I will tell you. So it's called Like a Phoenix. It is the Fantastic Four. It says, you know who is the writer penciler. Terry Austin is the guest inker. Glynis Oliver is the colorist. So what we're getting here is that John Byrne is the writer and penciler. And Terry Austin and Glynis Oliver. Like that team of those classic issues of X-Men are back. Byrne has been working on X-Men for a while. And has been working on Fantastic Four. It's been his book.
Right.
And Terry Austin is usually not the inker. So it's pretty exciting to see. And I will tell you, in person, this issue is gorgeous. Byrne is doing multiple books a month. He's doing, covers for every book when they want to boost sales, and he's all over the place. This issue has the FF returning to Earth, and right away they come across the Avengers. So you get everybody in this issue.
Okay.
And you see some, really great panels where there's all sorts of cool city stuff and great characters. And then, he's just going to not even draw a background, right? Then you get awesome She-Hulk and Hercules. And right away it goes into this sort of explanation. In Avengers 263, which came out about the same time, the Avengers discover, as you show here in this recap, this object at the bottom of Jamaica Bay.
Okay.
And there's lots of explanation, which is cool. And I also just want you to recognize the let me change that lighting here. Maybe it's going to be easier. The way the panels are set up, it's like six grid every time almost.
Okay.
And the reason I bring this up is because it's much faster when you don't have to make decisions.
Right.
If you just do this grid every time, there's no spending time doing designing. It's just right into, moving on with the story. Mm-hmm. But these panels look really, really good on the newsprint, by the way. It's excellent. So they show Reed Richards that they have this thing that they've acquired that was in this murky ocean bottom cocoon. And they realize it's got, it knocks Reed Richards out, all that stuff. By the way, she's got a cool mullet. Moving on. Look at that hockey hair.
Oh, yeah. Look at that, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So she makes it transparent, and they see inside is, of course, the body of Jean Grey.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty exciting. And if you really want to read it, there is quite a bit of awesome back and forth about how could it be her? Isn't she Phoenix, and isn't she dead, and all that stuff. And there are a few phenomena that occur. Obviously, everyone's getting thrown around. Someone's using, messing with gravity. But, of course, we know that it's telepathy or telekinesis. And out of this cocoon bursts an awesome Jean Grey wearing the dress that she wore that night they went out in Rockefeller Square and the Sentinels attack. And they go up into space. And they're coming back on, and they have to fight the Sentinels that are actually disguised as X-Men. Do you remember all that? Way back?
Oh, maybe.
This is X-Men 99 time.
Wow.
So
it's like a year and a half ago.
so this is like the outfit she was wearing, and she realizes, like, obviously they're not where they expect to be, and she sees all these people that she recognizes, but everyone's a little different. The FF is wearing new uniforms. Hercules has got a new suit. It's Invisible Woman, not Invisible Girl.
Mm-hmm.
They keep talking about Phoenix. She doesn't know what that is. So they have like are we friends? Are we enemies? Like, just what a great team Byrne and Austin are. Holy smokes. So they have their moment. I really feel like this is a panel that was recreated from something previous, whether it's a Kirby panel or a Cockrum or an older Byrne. But anyway, they've come to the conclusion. She thinks, okay, yeah, I can't beat you. You're right. You got me. And she surrenders. And they're like, we're not going to kill you, stupid. And they realize, now they retell the story about her, the night the Sentinels attack, going up with Stephen Lang.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah. No, it's all
coming back to Earth. So it's like they're retelling it, fighting those X-Men doppelgangers that are Sentinels. And it's beautiful. The colorist has got Wolverine in the wrong color here. He's wearing red and brown and tan. By the next page, like, awesome, good correction. Really good art in this, I have to say. But he's economic, right? Like, he's not doing anything here. But a lot of verbiage. And we've talked about this before. Jim Shooter and the rest of editorial decided to bring the original 5 X-Men back as a team.
Right.
So it happened to Claremont, not because of Claremont, if that makes sense. Okay? You just keep that in mind, right? Claremont is expecting her to be dead forever.
Yeah.
And they brought her back out of his book.
Okay.
So she's back, she's panicking, all that stuff. And they decide to, a lot of talking. They go to her parents' place to get that orb.
Oh, yes.
Hercules breaks the door, by the way. And they give her the orb and they talk, and oh my gosh. And she's afraid what to do next. Either way, Captain America then does his research with Beast. They tell her whole origin again. From Beast's his data file.
Sure.
So you get a lot of a retelling of everything, but really good looking pencils. And inks are unbelievable in this issue. And then the full on, now the part we actually really want to see, which is, how is Jean Grey not Phoenix? What's the difference?
Right.
And so now they're inside a memory.
Okay.
And there's no panel borders. It's it's rendered differently. It's kind of a nice contrast to see, a way to show being inside a memory. These characters are rendered hard with with ink spotting and everything, and these characters are rendered with almost nothing.
So I Banshee.
Real characters inside of a dream, if that makes sense. And then what they basically see is, eventually we get to see that as she's dying, this being comes to her and replicates her body and basically says, you can save the X-Men. I'm just going to use your form as a way. I need to inhabit something earthly to get there.
Okay.
And I'm cool with this as a retcon. It's interesting that it's well thought out, at least when you read the issue yourself. And she makes the decision and she sacrifices her life in a way, meaning that she knows that she's not going to be there with her teammates, but this being is going to take her place. And so she sacrifices her own future for everyone else. And that's a good one, I think. So Jean Grey's gone, Phoenix takes over, and now the memory ends and Jean wakes up or collapses, and they go on from there. And she doesn't know who she's going to be, all that kind of stuff. She doesn't know how she fits in this world.
And this is the real Jean Grey.
This is the real Jean Grey is back. And everything that Claremont has been doing with Madeline Pryor and with Rachel Summers, this is just doing an end run around them. End run? Is that the way I'm trying to say that? So they don't know what to do. But this is amazing, amazing drawings of her. She's never looked better. His faces are just... He's flexing that he can draw these beautiful, beautiful people. And they decide to make a phone call. I think they're going to call probably Scott Summers, because it says, oh, X Factor, it's coming. And that's how they get her back. That's how she comes back into comics.
Wow.
Does that make any sense at all?
So, well, no. But what is the being then that like said I'll take your place?
Phoenix.
So it's a Phoenix entity that wants to do well and wants to
The Phoenix entity comes to save her and
right.
to save the universe and save the
Oh,
X-Men
okay.
and all that stuff.
So it's not quite okay. Anyway.
I mean, it is what it is.
Like, yeah, I mean, hey, right, exactly.
It's an
So that's
attempt
the actual
to try and
Jean
get her.
Grey. And so when does this comic come out?
Same time.
So do we know about any story happening? Do we know, in the 40, 50 years since that, what's happening at Marvel that, Claremont's like, but I'm doing this. And they're like,
Yes.
Jean Grey back.
He's furious.
Okay.
He goes storming into the office and what the fuck, guys?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right.
They're like, we want more X books. Right? We've got an ongoing, obviously Uncanny.
Yeah.
We want to start more. We've got New Mutants. We want to do more.
Right.
We're about to start classic X-Men within the year.
Okay.
And that's a known thing. Like they're not. My scanner's on. I'm doing some stuff. Shh. Quiet, scanner. Yeah, I know. We're close, but I can just talk gruff to it. So we've got like those 3 series going, and they're like, there's money being left on the table by not having a series. We have enough characters. So editorial is choosing to start a new X-Men book called X Factor that Claremont is not writing. He's writing New Mutants, right? He's writing those additional sections in classic X-Men. He's writing, of course, Uncanny X-Men. He co-created that Wolverine Limited series. He did the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine Limited series. Magic Limited series he did. He's had his hand in all these things. And this one's like, now we're starting to pull back a little bit. It's been 10 years, right?
Interesting. Yeah, okay.
It's been from 1975, and now it's 1985, end of 85, early 86. And he's losing. This is like his first thing he's losing control over. I find it really interesting, of course, from like that editorial and creative and commerce conversation. X Factor, if you read the first 10 issues that say it's pretty uninspired superhero by the book stuff. There are the same 5 characters we all know. They have like a couple new recruits. They have a couple new adversaries. It's very house style, and I don't want to say I loved it, but those were some of my earliest comics, and so I reread them a lot, and I picked them up again recently, like in dollar bins, because I kind of wanted to see if there was any magic there, and there's just nothing. It is nostalgia for me to see them, but there isn't any interesting storytelling going on until maybe Walt Simonson takes over the book. So,
do you think it is a case of someone saying, it'd be great if we ever use the term X Factor? Because, it's an X Factor. So, no, that's really good. You should write that down. And then they're like creating a book around that title. Yeah. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Hey, is Michael making fun of me? Did I say it was Jamaica Bay? Says the local boy. Are you what did I say it was?
I think you said Jamaica Bay. Did you?
I think I did too. I think that's what it was, though. But are you making fun of me because I'm not the local boy, or you are the local boy? Either way, I don't mind you making fun of me at all. I did not know what Jamaica Bay was as a kid. I knew what Jamaica was when I was 10. I did not know what Jamaica Bay was, but I learned about it from comics like this one, which was in my collection early on. But I think it was from Jamaica Bay is where that all happened. Allie, how you doing? She says, happy Tuesday, all you awesome nerds. Sorry I'm late. The delegates roll call was a party, and I couldn't miss watching the DNC. I hear you. Enjoy. Maybe our show is second on this meaningful night. So did Claremont know this was happening? He knew it was happening, but it was out of his control. So I'm getting, my source is that Claremont doc. There's a documentary you can watch. Maybe it's on Prime. You might saw it on Tubi or something like that. It's called Claremont's X-Men. And in it, Louise Simonson, Ann Nesenti, and Chris Claremont sit down and they basically go through all the big topics, and it just comes out that he was told it was going to happen, and they wanted to bring back the original 5, and he didn't want to do it, and so it happened to him. But other things happen too that are interesting that are going to come. So, like, they want to do more crossovers, so he tries to, which we're going to get to in a couple weeks. So, like, for instance, the Mutant Massacre, right?
Mm-hmm.
They tell him these crossovers are a new thing. What would you do an X one? And they did an X one, and it was really successful. So, like, yeah, you got to do it again. And so we get all these mutant crossover events every year. We're going to get, after the Mutant Massacre, I forget already what comes, Fall of the Mutants, and then you get, you know, what's the one with the Goblin Queen, and it's just every year. Inferno. There's another X-Men crossover event, but that's sort of where it all happens.
Well, I'm more excited than ever now to see what happens.
Well, I'm going to touch upon that right now. So I do think that is almost one of the most interesting places where creativity happens. When you've got, let's say, an editorial mandate or boundaries because of technology or restrictions because of commerce. It's like, well, what can you do within this amount of time? You know, one of my favorite examples is you get this, you know, the Beatles record their first album. They can only afford 12 hours in the studio. So they book 12 hours straight. They record 14 songs in 12 hours. And out of those 12 hours, you get, okay, Love Me Do, whatever. But Please Please Me, I mean, that's like 2 minutes of just perfection. So I find that fascinating. Within those boundaries, you know, we got 24 pages, maybe 5 of them or 6 of them have to go to ads. We only get 4-color printing. You know, a readership that's only at this reading level. What can you do with that? Well, some people did some amazing stuff. Some people just fulfilled the quota, the basic requirements, but some people created these really evocative stories. So I don't mind editorial or commercial restrictions as a place to foster innovation. Michael says, if I'm not wrong, editorial power insisted Jean Grey die at the end of the Phoenix Saga. They then insist on bringing her back to life. Yes, it's specifically Jim Shooter about the death one. And again, I'm getting this from interviews with Chris, and interviews with John Byrne, and interviews with Jim Shooter, as well as looking at the artist editions where you can see when they had to rewrite stuff. So we've talked about it before, but it should be talked about as often as we can. The narrative is that they Chris writes a script. John Byrne, of course, wants to have a hand on the steering wheel with storytelling too. And in the particular issue, Chris writes that she goes on like a cosmic rampage. John extrapolates from that and draws her destroying a star. And so thus a whole solar system is destroyed. So billions of lives are lost on a particular planet. It wasn't in the script. It was something that John just extrapolated and drew. And so since she is responsible for the extinction of several species, let's just say even 100 species within a solar system, or even within one planet, they started working on the next issue. By the time they're working partway through issue, I think it's 138, or even 137, pardon me, Jim Shooter reads the issue that now has been printed, and he's like, you guys, you killed the whole planet, like a whole solar system. There has to be consequences. She has to die. So they start to, it's like an order from Jim. And they fight, and they curse, and Jim makes a promise to Chris then that they'll never bring her back. Like, if she's going to die, it's going to be a real death. Because in comics, there's only been a few deaths, right, and that have stood. And I'm not counting Bucky because that was a retcon. A good one, but a retcon nonetheless. We're just going to go with maybe Gwen Stacy as being like the big death in Marvel Comics up to that point. And so they kill her in 137, I think. And feel free to correct my numbers. They have to rewrite the beginning to set it up that way, and then she's gone. But of course, we see that all these months, all these issues we've been reading, Chris is doing something with a new Phoenix, a Jean Grey clone. Like, just, there have been, 3 times there have been like, Phoenix is back covers. or splashes where it's either a nightmare Phoenix, an hallucination Phoenix, something where Mastermind is messing with him, messing with Cyclops. So it's been this ongoing
X-Men crossover. Phoenix came
right.
back to that one.
It's been this ongoing sort of like trauma within the series that she's dead and that she might come back somehow. And also it's built into her name, right? So really interesting to see what Claremont wants to do. I like the idea, Rachel's fine. Maybe Rachel one day is going to leave and she's going to, ignite the fire within Madeline and she'll become Phoenix. Like maybe that's a way around it. Who knows what Chris was planning? I'd love to ask him what he would have done if it never happened. Actually, we can do that. Why not? Let's find out. But not tonight.
Get him on the show.
So, and then Jim and the rest of the team want to have another X-Men book, so they also insist on bringing her back. It's something just not at all happening. So there you go. Jamaica Bay, you got it. Chuck says, I've seen that, Doc. Forgot about this scenario. Yeah, it's not like the most eventful part within the X-Men legend, but funny nonetheless. And it's, of course, glossed over when you go to the cartoon. Like the abbreviated version of X-Men skips over this as a whole, right? She dies, she comes back, and she's back, and it's fine. They just move on. There's a hiccup with Madeline in X-Men 97, but it wasn't a big hiccup, just a couple episodes. Jonathan says, hey guys, got off work a little early, made it home in time to catch some of the show. Got a question. Have you guys read God Loves Man Kills on this channel? I looked but couldn't find it. This is my secret shame. I had a guest booked for this one.
Yep.
I even plugged it, dropped the name of the guest, and the guest bailed. The guest and I still talk about it all the time, and we never got to it. So we need to do something about that. Either invite him or just move on without him, because I know that...
Or just, I was going to say, yeah.
Just move on without him. Okay. Well, we really should do it, because it's meaningful, and it's now out of continuity big time, but we should still do it. But you're right. It's not there yet. Soon. Thanks, Chuck. Chuck saying 137. Yeah, that was when the double size Death of Jean Grey. All right. Ready to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm noticing something here.
What's that?
Your present mode is still fucked, as we would say.
Hold on. There you go. Is that better? Unbelievable. It's in present mode.
That's fine.
No, it's not fine. There, that's better. Hey, you know what? We were talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths, by the way. Our Beyonder friend is striking quite the Clark Kent Superman pose on this, even with the curl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty handsome. I think it's a good looking cover, too. That's what Jonathan says. I agree. Good looking cover.
All right.
Stan Lee presents Crossroads, starring the Uncanny X-Men.
My name's Rogue. The blonde's Miss Marvel. Here on the Golden Gate Bridge is where I killed her.
And we never get to see this in Avengers Annual 10.
We don't either.
We just see that issue, which is Rogue's first appearance. It starts with Rogue dumping the body of Carol Danvers off the bridge.
That's right.
So we never get to see them fight. It would be probably an epic throwdown, too.
Okay. She just settled in San Francisco. She used to be an Avenger, but since moving west, she pretty much dropped out of the superhero racket. I think she was trying real hard to put those days behind her. Didn't know why. Didn't care. All I wanted was a scalp. I nailed her outside a flat with her arms full of groceries, fumbling for house keys in the mail. Thought I had the witch cold. Cocky little me. That overconfidence cost me dear. Never seen anyone fight so fierce or fought so hard myself, before or since. But at last, I got a hold of her, my flesh touching hers, and my own special talent kicked into gear. You see, I'm a mutant, born with a power that sets me apart from ordinary folk. Simply by touching people, I can steal their skills and thoughts and memories, their whole mind. Usually that transfer is temporary. But with Carol Danvers, something went wrong. Transfer is permanent. All she was, totality of her existence, became a part of me. Her mind was a blank slate. Tabula? Tabula? Is that Zabula?
Tabula rasa.
Yeah, tabula rasa. As she should have just been born. I was so wild from the fight, I didn't know really what had happened, except that somehow she made me crazy. I thought by getting rid of her once and for all, by destroying her mind, and as I had her mind, and silenced the voices, the screams, the pain, the rage inside my own head. Should have known better. She's a part of me to the day I die. And who's to know anymore what Carol Danvers ends and Rogue begins? Hey, that top panel there.
Yeah.
Is she in the truck?
So that is her. Okay, this is how I'm reading it. Okay.
Okay.
That is the memory she's having now turning off as reality takes over. So the reality is passing through her memory of that moment.
I understand now. I understand.
Yeah. Allie loves the coloring choice. I do too. I like inspired risk taking in comics. I love when, you've only got these 64 colors, or practically speaking on newsprint, it's much closer to 25 because a lot of the variation between the colors doesn't show up clearly. But the idea of we got to show that this is not reality. We got to show this is a dream or a memory, and it's nighttime. So yeah, just using those blues and purples, really just nice, really, really nice.
Not me, that's for sure. When I see a guy, hear some music, smell some flowers, taste ice cream, is it me that reacts, likes him or not, or her? In a sense, that night was the end of my life too. No more Rogue the Wild Kid, hotshot member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Being two people trapped in one skull drove me insane. And the only person who proved able to help me was the Brotherhood's arch enemy, Charles Xavier, founder of the X-Men. They're mutants like me, only where I was a crook, they're heroes. Now, I'm one of them. I fought by their side, being hurt in their defense, even saved the world. But I know in my heart, no matter how much good I do, it'll never make up for what I did. Those scales, nothing will ever balance. I swore I'd never come back to San Fran. I knew the memories hurt, which they do, like mortal sin, and I couldn't bear to face them. I ain't so brave as I like to think, but I had no choice. The Beyond had teleported all the X-Men here, except Nightcrawler, then created a bunch of giant robots to kill us. We beat those 10 suckers. The trouble is the city took some lumps in the process. We've been putting things right, repairing the damage, and just generally helping out ever since. People here are real neighborly. They welcomed us pretty much from the start, made us feel at home. Nice change from the way mutants are usually treated. Hey, Kitty, you're up late.
Okay, before you go further, two things. First, stuff has happened in the other issues outside of X-Men. It will become very clear what has happened in the other issues. We don't need to go into it. What matters is pretty much how they move forward. The second thing we got to talk about is that Captain America thing. Is there any wonder that a lot of us kids in the 80s did not take Cap seriously? Like, this is the version of Captain America I kind of grew up with.
Right.
And although I had an action figure of him, he was never a character I wanted to read more about, see in a cartoon, play with, talk about until probably Ultimates, and then the Brubaker run. And
Do
the movies.
You got to admit, it's kind of funny how they introduced the Cap or the Avengers musical in the Avengers movie and in the Hawkeye series.
Yeah.
Considering, that's kind of what's happening here.
Yeah, but this is just it's so ridiculous. Yeah, Mass is saying, thinking that exactly. Captain America. Yeah, he wasn't. I know there were cool comics, But these things left a taste in my mouth.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't have any kind of edge to him, but of course that'll wear out. That'll wear off eventually.
Totally.
All right, sorry to have interrupted.
problem.
Hey, Kitty, you're up late.
Yeah.
There you go.
You taking your shadow cat identity to Hot Girl? Kitty, you okay? No. What the devil? It's the Eldritch armor that appears whenever my best friend, Ileana Rasputin, uses her magic. It's bonded to my skin, as if it were a living part of me, just like it was with hers. And this is her soul sword. Glory! The sum and substance of her arcane might. Don't you recognize it? Or remember her? My roommate Rogue, our teammate, Colossus' little sister. What are you talking about, Cat? You got no roommate? Colossus sure don't have a sister.
So we know something's happened. We know something's not right.
Right. How can I remember somebody doesn't exist? What about the New Mutants? Who are they? Cut this out, girl. It's too late. I'm too tired for games. He did it. He killed them, Rogue. They were kids. Some of them hardly more than babies, and he erased them as casually and completely as we might wipe words off a blackboard. Who? The Beyonder. He slaughtered them. But for some reason, maybe because Ileana and I have some sort of bond between our souls, I remember. A few weeks back, he stripped her of her magic and made her his disciple. That's when I discovered our link, because her sword and armor suddenly became to me. But she rejected him, and now he's taken his revenge. I'm the only person who knows she and the New Mutants ever existed. But no one believes me. Don't any of you understand? They were just a warm-up. The X-Men are the main event. Sooner or later, he'll do to us what he did to them. We won't know why. And for all our power, there won't be a blessed thing we can do to stop them.
Not so.
What chance have we against a creature like that? We're only human.
Wrong. You're human, Kitty. Phoenix isn't. The Beyonder gave me a portion of his might. Enough, he said, for me to kill him. But doing so would have meant your deaths. I chose to save you. Only he never took the power back. It's still within me. And I mean to use it.
You gonna tackle him one-on-one? That's suicide, Rachel. What's to stop him reabsorbing that energy the moment you show your face?
Nothing. If I confront him directly. But I have a better idea. What happens if the universe he inhabits ceases to exist?
You can do that? Destroy everything?
With a little help from my friends, speaking of the Beatles. There's nothing to lose, Kitty. From his actions, he's planning to destroy all of us anyway. Isn't that what you believe? At least we can ensure that whomever comes after us won't have his madness to threaten them. But I can't do it completely on my own. I need your strength, your life force, your spirits to sustain me. My mother, the original Phoenix, sacrificed her life for the universe. Can we do any less?
Kitty, wait. For what? Ray's right. We exist at that creep's sufferance. This may be our only chance to do it to him.
Before he does it to us.
That's Kitty's voice. Her way of speaking.
She's part of me now. Will you join her, Rogue?
Sounds too easy, Ray. Too slick. I don't know. I don't know.
Now whose voice and manner have changed? You sound like Carol Danvers.
She's a part of me. What you propose is horrible, behind comprehension, almost obscene.
But necessary.
I suppose the threat of the Beyonder is so much worse. Far greater of two evils, some choice.
Trust me, Rogue. It's the only one we've got.
I'm with you. If I believed in God,
I'd pray for forgiveness.
There you go.
Thank you, my dear friends. I'll try to be worthy of your trust.
Is this a private party, Phoenix? Or may anyone join in?
Jessica Drew.
I overheard. All of my adult life as Spider-Woman, and then, after I lost my powers, as a private detective, I've fought evil.
This Beyonder sounds like the foulest evil the universe has ever known. I'd like to do my part.
What a brave, noble woman to give of herself as unhesitatingly as she opened her home to the X-Men as a refuge. The Beyonder doesn't deserve the sacrifice of such souls as hers and Rogue's and Kitty's. I tell myself it's necessary, but it isn't fair. And I've only just begun. You know not what you do, Peter Rasputin, dear Colossus. But trust me, it's for the best. You love fights, Wolverine. The more impossible, the better. I'll guarantee this one will be a doozy. We're much alike, Magneto. You saw those we loved herded to their death. We couldn't save them. Now we both have a second chance. Like mother, like daughter, eh, Phoenix? I'd hoped you'd understand, Aurora. I do. This is wrong, Rachel. You must stop while you are still able. And let the Beyonder go on? I can't. I won't. If you won't give freely your soul force, Aurora, I'll simply take what I need. She wills a thing, says to herself, so be it, and it is done. Every thought, every emotion can instantaneously be made real. The primal, absolute creation and destruction are hers to command. Nothing is beyond her. No earthly power can oppose her as she leaps free of her birth world, abandoning it as easily as she has her humanity for her true home, the stars. She has become all she ever dreamed of, and far, far more.
This Phoenix rises anew, perhaps for the final time. As Jean Grey once faced the ultimate trial, so now must her child, and as before, the fate of the universe hangs in the balance. Being of an immortal race, I have ever pondered what, if anything, comes after the event mortals call death. Today, I may well learn. Whatever transpires, I will remain true to my charge and observe all that occurs. A fitting end, I think, for the being known as the Watcher.
A blink of an eye, and Phoenix is out of the solar system. By the way, just anyone else looking at the way the Phoenix is leaving the solar system, man, I'm getting serious fiery Phoenix vibes from good old Battle of the Planets G-Force from when I was a kid. That was probably my first exposure to Japanese anime,
Nice.
and I will forever love it. Chris, you didn't get to watch that one, did you?
I did not.
Oh, dude. We had so little. It was so good. It was so cool. But I was 4, so I mean, who the hell knows? A heartbeat, and the Milky Way galaxy is left far behind. Ahead, on the fringes of Shi'ar space, aboard a crippled starship, fleeing for its life.
Corsair, why did you summon the Starjammers? Are we under attack?
I can see the answer in his thoughts, Lilandra. But it's too incredible to be believed.
I wish that were true, Xavier. But see for yourself. What's she saying there?
I don't know if you'll be able to read that. Can you see it?
No, I can't.
Shara and Kithri.
Have mercy. The Phoenix! That's right, Empress. And she's coming our way.
Can we outrun?
With the ship in peak condition, not a prayer can fight either. Not a prayer, can't fight either. There you go.
Perhaps I can contact her telepathically. Rachel, is that you? In mercy's name, child, stop. Too late for that, Professor. I love that, like it being just sort of a very small silhouette. with the flame bird in front of it. It's beautiful. That's really nice. And there's no more mercy within me than in the one I intend to kill. Professor Xavier, you were with Phoenix in spirit, and Empress Lilandra and the Starjammers in the flesh when my mom came to this place to save the universe. It's only fair you be with me when I destroy it. This world has no name, and it is so far from everything. The lights glowing in its sky are not individual stars, but whole galaxies. Legend says this was the first planet to form and bring forth life after creation. Whatever race lived here has long since been forgotten, its cities silent and deserted since before the earth itself was born. Only one structure has withstood the ravages of time, the great Micron crystal. In all the eons, its guardian, Joff, has failed in his charge to keep the crystal untouched and inviolate only once against the X-Men. Unfortunately, history is about to repeat itself.
Boy.
Yeah, this dude needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
The city within the crystal.
It seems to go on forever.
True, Magneto, in infinite space. That feels as cramped, oppressive, desolate as a tomb. I had prayed never to see this place again, even in my darkest dreams. I welcome your spirit forms, X-Men, Starjammers, friends, and family, to our finest hour. I thank you for the gift of your life forces. I mean to use them well. Within this energy, it says sheer. I would expect sphere, but okay.
Yeah.
Within this energy sheer is a neutron galaxy, the ultimate black hole. Once it's unleashed, it will draw our entire universe down its gravity well, warping space and time as it casts all that matter and energy out into another dimension, creating the cosmos anew. We'll perish, but so, hopefully, will the Beyonder. No! Rachel, you cannot! You must not do this! You helped my mom, Storm. You gave freely of yourself then. Why not now? We fought to heal, to save. For such a cause I would and shall gladly give my life, as your mother eventually did. Don't you understand? That's what I'm trying to accomplish. To give life another chance, to let everything start over, without the omnipresent threat of the Beyonder tainting every moment. He means to destroy us anyway. At least this way, our death will have meaning and purpose. Suppose you are wrong, child. Have you considered the awful cost? I have no choice. You always have a choice. I won't be stopped, Aurora, by you or anyone.
It's kind of neat, that second last panel there. She's kind of wearing the Phoenix bird.
I was thinking
as a
exactly
cape.
the same thing. I want way more of that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like that.
Also in the top one on that page, it's like on the top of her head. on
Yeah,
the side.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Holy
it's a good
smokes.
evolution of the look. Yeah.
Yeah. I like when characters, like, there's a physical manifestation of their power in some way. I think it's interesting. And especially with a character with a power set like hers. This is a very ambitious page. Or
Sure.
2-page spread, right? Like someone is trying something and you gotta respect. I'm just looking for that middle staple. So the page before is the middle staple. This is obviously one page after it. There is often talk amongst, comic book planners that when you just open up a comic book without really planning it, it often falls to this double page middle staple, page 12 and 13. And sometimes it's really worthwhile to put something dynamic on page 12 and 13 because you might be capturing the first view of a new reader as they open your book. They often don't start as they would, like kids in the spinner rack kind of thing. But so this is an almost, like, it's not quite the middle, but this is, again, just so ambitious.
Oh, yeah.
At first, she discovers darkness, absolute, Stygian. Is it Stygian or Stygian?
Stygian, I'd go with.
Impenetrable. It is herself, the shadow of reality, able to perceive nothing beyond that self. For what is not real does not exist, and therefore cannot be. By the way, I feel like this is going to be really clear to read this. Like, we're not going to be weirded out by any of it. It's going to be totally crystal clear.
Totally.
Very literal, I'm sure. Then, prompting both surprise and awe, she espies light, speckling her ebony self like fireflies in the night. The brightest are stars, old, young, fiercely new-formed, barely aglow, hot, cool, some proud in their splendid solitude, others prouder still because they nurture planets. Each planet is a light. And each thing that lives upon that planet, a mad, crazy, wondrous collage of color, wildly beautiful, ever-changing. Ever-changing races, newly born, others breathing their last. Animals and sentient beings, that's odd, sentient beings it should be, ruled by passion, by intellect, committing acts magnificent and awful, glorious and obscene. Savage tribes, civilized societies, warriors, aesthetes? I don't even know what that word is.
Yeah.
Aesthetes, oppressed, oppressors, the best, the worst, who love, hate, create, smash, slay, are slain. This feels like some beat poetry. Like there's no commas sometimes. It's pretty wild. Everyone out there, you should go do your own.
It's like reading Joyce's Ulysses.
Yeah, you should give your own reading to everyone should do their own performance of this and post on Instagram and tag previously at X-Men. It's interesting. Impossibly, she touches everyone, regardless of how great or small. Their lives become hers. For this timeless instant, she experiences their dreams, their yearnings, their terrors, all they were and are and hope to be, the totality of their beings.
Look at this one.
Chuck wants to give us some support here. He says, aesthetics, lovers of beauty.
Nice. Oh. Well, isn't that something you learn new?
Yes.
Cool.
She has never been
on the X-Men show.
She has never been more afraid, more completely alone, and yet she is not alone. As another voice speaks to her. You see, Aurora says, with fierce serenity, truly see what you intend. To kill, Rachel, not the cosmos, but people. Living beings who know nothing of Phoenix, nor the cause she champions, nor the rationale she uses to justify their unwitting, unwilling sacrifice. Behold each individual, unique and special, because it has been granted the supreme gift, life. Weigh that life in the balance. Can you slay each one? Steal away that gift? That is what this is all about. Will you be their executioner? You face the ultimate choice, the ultimate test, as your mother did before you. Now make it! I wonder what the script was for this. Like, is there any kind of description that is explaining what John Romita Jr. should be drawing here? Like this page of sort of Lord's order and chaos almost. Yep. You know, like so interesting. But it is some trippy Jim Starlin stuff. Wow.
I mean, you know what? Again, impressive that they are trying this. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All for creativity here for sure.
San Francisco. Everything depended on me, Aurora. But I failed. I failed. I failed. Because you could not kill? Because you could not slaughter countless innocents? A strange failure, that. Now the Beyonder will. He'll destroy everything. And that infinite cost will be upon his conscience. I think this is Kitty.
Is this Kitty?
I think so.
What happened to us, Aurora? How do y'all get back here?
Instead of shattering the sphere, Rachel misspelt this time, I think.
Yeah.
Rachel cast herself out.
It's like Michael.
Well, it's another way to spell it, but
yeah,
it not a common one, but it's another way it works. Rachel cast herself out, restored the borrowed life essences to their bodies, the rightful bodies, and sent us home safely, or sent us safely home.
So we've lost.
Depends, don't it, kid? I have the right to choose how to end my life. And I'll kill if I've got cause. But I'm not an executioner, Ray. We do that. We play the Beyonders game, proving ourselves to be no better than him.
In the early days of our friendship, Charles Xavier asked me if I would slay the infant Adolf Hitler, an innocent baby, to spare the world the horror of the Holocaust. I said yes. And then he asked, would I slay Hitler's grandparents? I said yes again. I would gladly pay any price, make any sacrifice to expunge such transcendent evil. But now I wonder. I'm disappointed, X-Men. That light.
Main event, Colossus. On your toes.
I wish I could see my parents in Russia the final time.
Been fun, Mariko. My love.
All we've seen. All we've done. And it don't make a bit o' difference. That's right, Rogue. I offered you X-Men the opportunity to go out with a truly spectacular bang. But you flubbed it. I suppose I should have known. As your villains sometimes say, if you want a job done right, you have to do it yourself. Well, here I am. This is the end of your road, X-Men. I hope you plan to go down swinging. Not that you have a prayer of winning, but I really enjoy a good scrap. If not, I'll terminate you where you stand. I'm tired of waiting, bored with you, Buster. Just go ahead and take your best shot. Who? What the devil is he? An apt choice of phrase, Ms. Drew. This is the creature Phoenix sought to destroy, the Beyonder. I am from another space, Jessica Drew. There I was all. Yet when a cosmic event made me aware of your space, and thereby of my own existence, I found myself asking, is that all? I sought answers, yet discovered only confusion and contradiction. I desire order, yet all about me is chaos. I require oneness and unity, yet behold only multiplicity and apartness. This is wrong.
For you, bub, not us.
And what are you?
Living beings.
How full of yourselves you are. Save perhaps for this newborn star soul, the one you call Phoenix. You are less to me than the amoeba is to you. And that gives you the right to do what you want, to whomever you please, without care or consideration, just because you're bigger than they are? Mister, take a shot. You the heck do you think you are? There's a word for creeps like you. Bully. There is much, Shadowcat. You do not comprehend. I don't care. Because you're not worth caring about.
No, it's her saying that.
That's right. Because you're not worth caring about. That's right. Everything I've heard of you, from the moment you
appeared, everything I've seen tells me you're cruel, capricious, wicked. Pick a nasty word. It'll fit. You hurt people, and because it doesn't matter to you, you seem to figure it won't to them. You play with us as if we're puppets provided solely for your amusement. And now that you're bored, now your precious game isn't working out the way you want, you simply throw the toys away and start again.
I offered humanity oneness with creation, but I was refused.
And this
I think it's
is...
Storm. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks stormy. Yeah, it's stormy.
Yes, because to have meaning, such glory must be earned. We, all people, must grow into it naturally, as Phoenix has begun to do with her power, as Mother never had a chance to do. You stand for death, Beyonder. I, now and forever, for life, as my mom before me. These are my friends, my family, and this my world, and around us my universe. I won't let you harm any of them.
And how, pray tell, will you prevent me? You are what you are solely because I will it. That can just be easily be remedied.
Score 1 for Kitty. It was no accident, then, your allowing me to retain that power. You knew my thoughts and fears, the shadows in my soul, the dark side of my nature. You knew what my mom did and set me up to follow in her footsteps. It was
What's that? Oh, you're right.
It was your cat's paw. I was to do your dirty work for you. Break the crystal, destroy the universe. It wouldn't kill you, merely recreate your state of primal being, of primal unbeing, that precious unity you're so fond of.
But you failed me, as all humans seem to do.
Them's the breaks.
You are of no more use to me, Phoenix. Therefore, I require the return of what is rightfully mine in full.
My pleasure. She blazes as bright as the first light of creation. Those watching should have instantaneously been struck blind, yet they are not. Indeed, their eyes remain wide open, unafraid, and full of wonder, as this celestial radiance causes not even the slightest discomfort to them. But the one from beyond tries to turn away, only to learn he cannot. He tries to make Phoenix stop, but she will not. Okay, just don't turn yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all these panels, curly hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Curly hair, curly hair, curly hair.
Yep.
The might of the universe is pushing against him. His hair keeps its shape.
It does.
Think about the body he has in those curls.
That's right.
Okay, now let's see what happens.
What?
What the hell happened to his hair for that panel? Where did he get that swoop?
Good question.
His power. Sorry, he sought his power. But this is far, far more than even he can bear. It is the power to straighten hair.
Ooh.
All that Phoenix experienced, the totality of life in all its forms, all its infinite glory, is now his.
I never dreamed, never imagined, never contrived.
It says conceived.
Conceived. Sorry.
It's so hard for you to see it.
So hard to see it. Why did it take so long to finally learn?
We each have our little lives, our destinies, our unique paths to walk. Perhaps they mean nothing in the grand macrocosmic scheme of things. On the scale of reality where such as you dwell, Beyonder. but they are all we have. As a light shining in the dark to burn out in its own way, in its own time. It is wrong for one of us to snuff out a lone candle. How much worse, then, for you to extinguish them all. How easy to say, I shall expunge a universe. But consider each life, each potential, each candle, not as things, but lives, like your own. And ask yourself the question Rachel did. Can you kill? Will you?
But if I do not, what becomes of me? Ahead lies the greatest of unknowns, and I find myself afraid to face it.
You said you wanted to learn what it was to be human. But how can you when you're immortal? Everything we do, everything we are, or hope to be, is framed by the shadow of death. You can't know us without knowing that.
So I must cease to be, or a universe. In Nightcrawler's faith, it's believed that God so loved the world and its people that he gave up his only begotten son to save them. If we're the X-Men's choice, we know what to do. But you, who are so powerful, can't figure it out? Out of the mouth of babes. It is a concept, a thought worth considering. If we do not meet again, X-Men, I wish you well, and thank you for what you have shown me this night. It is strange, but I find myself envying your humanity. In that I think your race is truly blessed. Do not squander it. It's Kitty. He's gone.
This might be the blonde, curly-haired woman that was standing there, or Jessica Drew.
Oh, could be.
I think that's the two. So everyone look, the sunrise. Something I confess I thought I'd never live to see.
If only Ileana and the mutants were here to watch it with us. That hasn't changed. They're still gone, and I'm the only one who remembers. Tell me, my friends, did we make a difference?
We yet live, Colossus. That is answer enough for now. The Beyonders saga concludes in Secret Wars 2, number 9. Well, in next issue, we learn what happened to Nightcrawler.
What happened to Nightcrawler?
Oh my God. Chris, what happened in this issue?
I don't know, man. I can't even. As soon as it goes cosmic, I'm like,
I'm cool with cosmic, but it has to be like on track with something.
Sure.
So the Beyonder wanted to learn what it meant to be human and the value of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was... So Rachel gets... I don't even know. They had to explain at the end what happened to kind of make...
Yeah.
It makes sense. Like, he somehow wanted Rachel to be the reason that the universe ended, so he was setting her up for that. But man, it didn't read that way at all while you're going. Like it.
No, it doesn't.
I just want to like take this and just put it aside and just move on.
Yeah, it's so funny. They've done this a few times, where have had a multi-part, something crisis of something, threat, whatever. And the very next issue is that crazy holiday party thrown by Shadowcat. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
it really does shift tone pretty. It's pretty deliberate how it tries to shift tone.
Yeah, it also reminds me like of many simultaneous thoughts. One, it's like sometimes the best X-Men comics are about those collaborations, even with story. Like I mentioned before about John Byrne having a hand on the wheel during the Dark Phoenix saga, and John Byrne joins X-Men in 108. And he asserts more and more of his opinion and storytelling direction with Claremont, to Claremont's benefit hugely, as well as ours. And then eventually, like they just can't work together anymore. And John Byrne goes to the FF by himself, essentially.
Yeah.
And works on that. And I will say, he's about to leave this title and actually jump ship to DC to restart Superman. Like, that was the offer, was like, hey, come, we're going to restart. Like, Miller is doing Batman Year One, and, you know, obviously ending sort of Batman in a way with Dark Knight Returns, but that was a different thing. But he gets the chance to do Batman Year One. Byrne goes over and gets to reconceive Superman from the ground up. So he gets to do his Man of Steel series and the ongoing as well, like a Superman title.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Perez goes over and works on, well, he's already there, but he gets to do Wonder Woman. So there's just like this real movement, but Byrne is about to leave Marvel, and it's a big deal in comics to see Byrne finally over at DC working on their properties, and he stays there a good little while. But, you know, we get to see cool issues where, you know, in that Paul Smith run, we got some Cosmic that he had to finish off for Cockrum.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's just space swashbuckler stuff with the Starjammers. We got to see some cool ninja and relationship, awesome stuff with Paul Smith. I don't know how much say Romita Jr. gets in that storytelling. Like, what kind of stories do we want to tell? What are we working on? Or if Claremont really has control of it with Louis Simonson, who is now over starting on X Factor soonish. Well, my point was going to be that I don't know how much Claremont has in the tank still, right? It's 10 years.
Right. 10 years.
We're getting like, maybe it was always bumpy. Maybe it was never a smooth ride of hit after hit after hit. It was like weirdness, and then it swells to something great, and then kind of dies down, and then swells to something great, and maybe shaky and swells to something great again. It did definitely seem that once the X-Men got taken by Magneto in the 10s, the 110s, it was like a really solid Odyssey until they finished the Dark Phoenix saga, and then Days of Future Past. Like, that Byrne run might be the most consistent we've ever seen X-Men. Yeah. Like, book in, book out each month. I wonder how much he has left in the tank. Another thought, and I don't know if you want me to go forward and tell you how long Romita Jr. is staying on the book. Do you want me to tell you?
Sure.
The next 2 issues are not Romita Jr. Team issues. The next issue is What Happened to Nightcrawler, and it's a guest artist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine, and you're going to get to do a lot of Nightcrawler voices, so everyone's going to love that.
Excellent.
And then the issue after that is a story by Barry Windsor Smith and Chris Claremont. It's it called Wounded Wolf? It's 205. We're going to have Dave Pretorius on to do that issue with us.
Cool.
It is...
It's not Life, Death 3?
No, it's not. So I'm going to hot take, you know, maybe Wounded Wolf is like one of the top 5 best drawn X-Men comics of all time. You can argue it's definitely one of the most labor intensive, you know, comics we're going to see. For guys of this vintage, who are old enough to get it when we were probably too young to, like, it was too sophisticated when I was 10 or 11. But man, is it ever cool! Mass is like, yes, I have that issue. Yeah, it's a special one. We're going to get a few Barry Windsor Smiths in the next little while, but we're not going to get some steady JR for a bit, and then he does finish his run relatively soon after that.
Okay.
So we'll get into the Mutant Massacre, and then it's bye-bye to JR forever. Well, not forever. Jeez. He actually returns to X-Men a couple times, but but not during the Claremont run.
Not during
the end of his tenure during the Claremont run soon. We're not far off. So there's some neat stuff coming, and some introductions of a couple new artists also that we're going to see more of. Or in the near future, we're going to see another Rick Leonardi. We're going to see an Alan Davis, which is like, yes, to me, really special. And another Arthur Adams annual soon.
Oh, cool.
There's lots of fun X-Men coming up. But I'm wondering with that, like, is Claremont's best
behind him,
like consistent run behind him? Or will having new artists breathe new life into? We shall see, right? We shall see soon. Chuck says, doesn't seem like CC was taking much input from others at this point. Yeah, I wonder. I don't think he was either. I think he thought he had it figured out, which is fair. Again, 10 years as the custodian on the book, and makes some total sense. Chuck says, I'm waiting for the Nightcrawler Banshee team up. Chris won't be able to break. Won't be able to talk for a week afterwards.
The four-part miniseries.
Yes. And Dan, hey Dan, how you doing, man? Dan says, looking forward to 205. Barry Windsor Smith is amazing, incredible issue. Yes, I'm gonna pitch something. Hold on, let's see. I think it's here. Oh my God, I'm too old for this. Okay, in this oversized version, I think it's called. You call these gallery editions, whatever they're called. It's oversized. This is a regular comic. That is how big that one is. You can see the difference. Okay, big. It's bigly. In it is the Weapon X miniseries from Marvel Comics Presents, and once it is over, in the second half of the book is X-Men 205 in its hyper saturated glory. I'll open this up here. So it's tough with the glare in my room here in my studio, right. But I will say, if you get the chance to read this on newsprint, read it on newsprint because it's nice and kind of a bit more subdued. I'm going to just throw at least one page at you. But if you are interested in his art, man, oh man, at this size, you can see every line. It's really it's just clear. It's a nice complement to the other versions of this that you get. And it's a very memorable issue. Okay, obviously, there's the splash.
Right.
And it's a really memorable one.
It's of Wolverine gutting kids.
and it's Katie Power, no less, from Power.
Oh, then he has history with her.
But again, that's 2 issues away. It is Chris Claremont is story and script, and Barry Windsor Smith is story, art, and color. And man, oh man, the color work in this is insane. But it is much easier to read, I will say, on my nearly 50-year-old eyes. Much easier read, as is Weapon X at this size. It's a great experience to read them like this. Highly recommend. And as well, there's some original art in here. I recommend that one. What else? There's so many things I want to talk about. Can we do something else since it's X-Men related?
Sure.
So, Roy Thomas, who was in the 60s Stan Lee's apprentice, became the writer on series where Stan Lee would sort of set it up with Jack Kirby, and then they would both move on to a new series, maybe 10, 15 issues in or whatever. And sometimes Roy Thomas would take over as well as another artist in the stable at Marvel. So he was a de facto Stan Lee. A Stan Lee apprentice is a fair way to look at it, and eventually takes over as editor-in-chief. He's a longtime writer and editor at Marvel, probably most famous for his Avengers and his Conan the Barbarian. But he is editor, I don't know if he's editor on X books or maybe just overall in 74. And he is the one who is sort of known to have sort of said, hey, let's have a character named Wolverine who's Canadian and diminutive. And recently, of course, with Deadpool and Wolverine, Roy Thomas has come out and said that he thinks he should have first billing on the creation credits for Wolverine. And it's well documented. The name, the nationality, and
the balloons.
The balloons. I'm just trying to count here. I really need to turn that feature off. Was it not going to do? Want to shoot the lasers?
Yeah, it didn't do it.
How do I do that? I thought it was like this.
Oh, there
Like
it is.
this?
Yeah, it wasn't
Like
like
this?
that. Like that. There it is.
All right. So he wants top billing on that. And
So
there's
the game, the Canadian piece. What
and
else?
the size, being a smaller character.
Small.
So then Len Wein gets hold of that and works on Hulk 181.
Yep.
John Romita Sr., of course, designs a character, full-on designs the Wolverine costume exactly as we know it to end up in the book. Like he even Herb Trimpe, who's the artist on that issue, in the first appearance is credited as 181 of Incredible Hulk, but it's like he steps in at the end of 180, but his first full appearance is 181. But Herb Trimpe, the artist, even recreates the John Romita Sr. like character sketch for the purposes of that book.
Mm-hmm.
So he's fully visually created by Romita. And then Len Wein writes him in that, and then of course brings him into X-Men, and then Claremont takes over after an issue. Cockrum has his take, and you and I watched the evolution of.
Oh.
And I'm like thinking about how many people went to go see the movie Logan, and he's not in the costume. He's not 5'2" or 3. The fact he's Canadian is absolutely irrelevant in that movie. And so many people saw that movie and like loved it, and it was incredibly good as a story. Like it was a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep thinking like, what does it mean to create something? If you say, hey, would you go into the fridge, make me a thing, I want you to call it pizza. Go make it. I want you to call it pizza. I want it to be bread and then toppings on, some toppings on top of that, on that bread. And it's called pizza. So did I make the pizza or did you make the pizza? Who created pizza? The guy who orders it?
He does.
Or the person who actually goes and does it? It's so interesting for him to fight. I think if the other people want to say we need to give Roy some more credit, then maybe. But no one's saying that. Just Roy. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Seems like a bit of a. If it's only coming out more recently, it seems like a bit of a grab towards something.
Something? You mean money?
Yeah, or whatever, recognition or whatever. I don't know. But I mean, it does sound like the version that we come to know and love of Wolverine seems to have been fathered by multiple people.
Definitely.
Everyone adds a little bit, it seems like. So
it's funny, even with Liefeld, he gets all the I don't mean all the credit from people on the inside, but all the credit from people on the outside, because he gets those short interviews or just gets his name dropped, and as being the creator of Deadpool. But of course, he only draws Deadpool a very small number of times back in those early days. And the idea of he never breaks the fourth wall. He's not the merc with the mouth.
Right.
Like all those pieces get added later by other creators. And what's that saying? That success has many fathers, but failure, I don't know what it is. But failure is always an orphan. Is kind of the idea,
Yeah.
Roy Thomas. There's this thread back to Stan Lee, where he famously, for a long time, kind of had a unwritten feud with Steve Ditko about Spider-Man, and Ditko just didn't want to ever have to fight. He didn't want to. He would refuse to comment on it or do any articles or stand up for himself. He kind of, I think, just wanted. He knew that Lee wasn't going to ever really share credit because the money had already gone. Lee had already secured his place in cultural history. But eventually Lee says, yes, I consider Steve Ditko to be the co-creator of Spider-Man. And Ditko is like, that's not even good enough. Saying that you consider it means it's not true. It's just you're gracing me with your consideration. But Lee has said, like, you can watch the interview where he says that because he thought of it, he thinks that is to create it. Like, thinking of it means he created. Like, no, I thought about going to Saturn, but that doesn't mean I went. There's so much. Like, I actually found myself commenting on someone's YouTube channel. I fell in that trap. And I think what I was sort of where I started off was like, I think that creation is about choices. All the choices you've got to make. When you write a script, every letter you type is a choice. Every word, every scene that you're trying to figure out, those are all choices you're making. And every pen stroke, the shoulders this way versus that way, every bit of change of the costume, all these choices. So the people who make choices, the more choices you make, the more hand that you have on how that character turns out. And it's not always how they start, but also how they finish, or when they peak, or when they become something that then someone else can take and keep going with.
Really?
Like, Wolverine can be Wolverine without his costume, without his name, without his height. You know what I mean? He's still Wolverine. And the movie Logan proved that. So the things that lasted are the things that you can't take away. Right?
Yeah.
And I find all that stuff really, so it's like, it's the heart of him, the personality of him. But Lee, yeah, man, because I thought of it, I created it. Like, co-create. Yes. Let's say let's work together.
Yeah.
Collaborate. But man, oh man. Anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting to say, yeah, failure is an orphan. Chuck says that's how it goes. Mass says, I'd have rather seen Larry Hama in the credits. I did not see all the credits that went with Deadpool or with Wolverine. I saw Byrne was on there. Claremont's always on there. I think Cockrum gets on there too. But I don't remember seeing if Larry Hama's name was there. So Hama does a run on the solo series of Wolverine that is loved by a lot of people. I would admit I've never read it. I'll get that trade one day because now the single issues are hard to acquire, but I'll get a trade at some point and read that. The Hama, is Silvestri the artist on that? I believe he is. But Mass, you tell me who did that solo Wolverine run that you're talking about. And you don't have anything to say on that, Chris?
Well, I mean, again, I think it's it's timed, right? Like anytime.
Yeah,
I mean, certainly. I mean, the Roy saying that, but no, absolutely. Like, I think if you are, especially in a graphic medium,
yeah,
like just so. All right, so an idea is thought, put on paper, doesn't become a character in a medium that is graphic by nature. Like, I think it is through co-creation and collaboration, right? And like we could take, it's funny, we could, let's just say our characters, for example, someone takes them in 10 years and does something to them that enchants a whole new audience, right? Entices because they've added something else to the mythos of those characters. And then, 20 years later, the movie comes out or whatever. And maybe it has all of it. It's all of it that leads to the character being something that is, beloved by many, right? So
right.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I think there is legitimately, like, people get really precious really fast about some of these things, and it's not to take away from someone's great idea or great design or great whatever. But depending on how long these things, and the longer these things are out in the world has its impact on them. And you can't necessarily control what's taken and where it goes. So.
Yes. I also think that we are so fussed over, like, copyright, trademark, that we think that's what creation is. It's who has the copyright or who trademarked it is the act of creation. With a character has to experience something. They have to go they have to take action, right? Make choices as fictional choices as they go through their story. So sometimes it's about like if you just come up with the idea of it, but it never goes on its journey, then it's not a character yet. It's a concept, you know. And if Roy Thomas wants to take credit for the concept, I don't think he can do that. I think the character is so much more than just those three pieces. It is. It's interesting how, because these things are such massive commodities now, right? Everyone wants their piece. And
Well, and there's a documented history of people not getting there. Look at Ditko, not getting
big time,
or Kirby,
big time,
right? So
Mass says, even with Deadpool, this may be an unpopular opinion, but Liefeld's version is just a Frankenstein monster. He did maybe 2 to 3 issues with him. The popular Deadpool came along after he, meaning Liefeld, left Marvel. I want to say it's Joe Casey who does the writing, and like Ed McGuinness and other artists that really bring out the version of Deadpool that Ryan Reynolds is pulling from. But similar to Robert Downey Jr., like the voice we hear, right? The meter, the energy of that character will forever, for us, at least be Ryan Reynolds to a degree. For the mass audience, how many readers does he have in the? Let's just pretend there are 10 million people who read Deadpool comics, and that's a massive number. But there are way more people who saw the movie or the movies, way more. So it reminds me also of like, what's the dominant form of Deadpool? The dominant form of Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. Dominant form of Iron Man is RDJ's Iron Man. So that it's very interesting how IP enhances. Yeah, I'm fascinated by it. Chris, that was fun.
It was something.
There's original art. It's bonkers. I think it's a great cover, but there isn't a really good scan of this one, by the way. Just throwing that out there. Events. I'm hoping David pops up in the chat, but events. September 14th, we're in Guelph, Ontario at the Guelph Comics Jam. October 5th, we're in Whitby, Ontario at the Whitby Fan Con. October 27th, we're at Wayside Creator Con in Newmarket. I'm looking forward to that one as well. And November 16th, we're at the Mississauga Comic Expo.
Yes.
And as of right now, what's that, Chris?
Sorry. Who knows? There may be more in and around those dates.
Who knows?
Who knows?
As of right now, we are not going to Fan Expo Canada. It is on Thursday through Sunday. But who knows? Maybe that'll change. Maybe that won't.
And Chuck's right. Don't forget the Mountain Music Man Festival.
Oh, Chuck. Thank you for that. I'm making me miss David, who will be at Fan Expo Canada in beautiful downtown Toronto. Crowded, humid downtown Toronto. Thursday through Sunday. And other friend of the show, Jason Lowe, will be there too. They're both doing Fan Expo, which should be hopefully great for both of them. I'm hoping lots of our friends are going to be there, and I'm thinking of everybody like Ricky Lima and who else? Keith and a bunch of other creators.
Because there's a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, rooting for them all to have a great show, so that would be cool. Anything else you want to talk about before we call it a night, Chris?
Just say a couple thanks here. Got a couple more subscribers on the YouTube channels. Thanks to Pitfall and Richard Reyes for subscribing to the channel. It is the Richard Reyes who took part in your superhero sketch club this past week.
That's right.
At Wayside Comics.
We were doing, and Dan Scott, who's in the chat as well, was there.
Oh, right on.
We were working on our Dark Knight Returns stuff. That was our inspiration, was to work on the Dark Knight Returns, and I decided to take that image and go from Miller to different Frank Miller, way more Sin City styles, and just do that hard black and white. It was so much fun. The ink is crazy, like the black. To get it smooth, it's crazy. It's not necessary to do, but yeah, that was what I worked on that day. That was fun, and fun to do that. So glad Richard joined and Pitfall joined. Next week we'll be back with issue 204. What happened to Nightcrawler, right?
It's probably just grabbing a coffee.
Maybe. There you go. So the thumbs up. Abby and Dan had a great time. Thanks. I'm
Great
glad
time,
you guys could be
yeah.
here. It was fun to hang out with you too and talk, and also to watch Abby smile when I teased her about her Boston Bruins t-shirt. Good times. Good times. All right, Chris. That brings us to the end of another episode of Previously in X-Men. I'd like to thank, as always, all of you out there and our good friend Chris Sanagan, writer of Group of Seven and Peregrines. And you can find us on all the socials, of course, at Group of Seven Comics. Our website is group7comics.ca. Both of those, of course, is with the number 7. And our email, in case you're not sure, is info@group7comics.ca. So you can find us in all those places. And on that note, I hope everyone out there stays Exy. Like Chuck says, stay Exy friends. And we will see you next time. So thanks again. And thanks a lot, bub. And we'll see you next week.
See you next time.
Cheers, everybody. My dog is barking.
Yeah.